My fiance of 10 years turned cold after our dream life came true. You forced me to buy this house, he claims, while I'm unraveling. I offer to let him keep the savings and car, saying, if you feel trapped, just go. Is this love or emotional abuse? Hello, Reddit. I will attempt to be as concise as possible, but something occurred recently that has completely changed my existence, and I am uncertain whether it is abusive or what steps to take from this point forward. I will begin from the start for context. I cannot recall many details. I am not sure if I have blocked them out or something else has occurred, but here is my best account. I, a 29-year-old female, met my fiancé, a 30-year-old male, when I was 18 and he was 19. He is my first and only boyfriend, so I have never been certain how a relationship should appear, but this is the only one I have experienced. The first 6 months were blissful. I received flowers regularly, fancy jewelry, frequent outings that he paid for, and handmade cards. I was completely enamored. Unfortunately, my partner exhibits a severely toxic pattern of behavior in which every few years, a period of harsh, emotionally abusive behavior surfaces when difficulties arise. He frequently threatens or sometimes actually leaves me. Eventually, things revert to normal, and he takes months or even years to recognize his wrongdoings and abusive behavior towards me. He expresses remorse and becomes a great partner once again for a year or two, only for the cycle to commence anew. After 6 months of our relationship, during which I was excessively showered with gifts, the first intensely emotionally abusive episode occurred. He would belittle me, asserting that I would never earn as much as he does. He claimed he wanted me but did not need me. He accused me of being overly needy and insisted that I needed to express my love for him less. When he would cause me to cry, he would employ tactics such as saying, "I will not hug you until you stop crying." While he would go out with his friends and their partners for drinks, I was not permitted to join because he said I embarrassed him. He accused me of being overly dramatic. Many aspects of our relationship left me feeling insecure, confused, and upset much of the time. Additionally, during arguments, he would always leave me. Here are some specific examples to illustrate my point. He controlled when I could visit him at his apartment with his friends, often permitting only 1 day per week. During exam periods while he was at university, I was not allowed to see him for months. He never came to see me, it was always me visiting him. I was never allowed to go out at night with him and his friends and their girlfriends. He would text me only once a day, claiming that was all I deserved due to my perceived neediness. He often said phrases like, "I want you, but I do not need you," which painfully linger in my mind. Due to the irregularity caused by the birth control I was using, I took a pregnancy test monthly to ease my anxiety regarding that aspect. He would become infuriated that I spent money on the tests and would frequently try to convince me to stop taking them, despite my insistence that they helped alleviate my anxiety. He would have sex with me weekly, but then might go months without wanting to. If I questioned this or brought it up, he would accuse me of being obsessed with sex or that I was just a sex fiend. He would routinely call me embarrassing, another phrase that remains lodged in my memory. If I reacted positively to anything, he would label me as dramatic or too much. He criticized my financial abilities for not saving money. Although I had no debts and paid everything on time, I simply did not save much historically. He made a significant deal of insisting I should be saving more, despite the fact that I used to send him 100 a week to support him during university because he refused to work. He denigrated my degree in English literature, claiming it was worthless, and insisted that his degree in physics would lead to a successful career. Everything was couched in jest, making it difficult to discern where I stood. For instance, he would constantly comment about my smell, making me paranoid, prompting me to beg him for reassurance by asking, do I smell? He would eventually respond with, "Gosh, I am only joking." It is safe to say that this took a significant toll on me, leading to the development of a profoundly anxious personality as a result of the first abusive episode. I have become painfully people-pleasing, a trait that runs deep within me, altering me in ways that make me feel forever different. I also approach situations differently, constantly thinking several steps ahead to avoid making him angry or upset. One coping mechanism I developed was to refrain from making decisions and always seek his approval, which impacts my quality of life. Sometimes it can take me 10 minutes to find a parking space because I struggle to decide. I also often feel excessively dramatic or too much, spending weeks ruminating about my reactions to situations, questioning if others perceive me as being overly dramatic. It is exhausting living in my own mind. Just a few months ago, my supervisor sniffed near me, and I immediately assumed it was due to a smell on my part. It is the little instances that compound. Eventually, he emerged from that emotional abuse phase and started treating me kindly and lovingly again. I gradually felt comfortable expressing how his actions affected me, and he seemed to understand and genuinely change. We even became engaged. He promised never to revert to the person who called me names and caused me to feel embarrassed. However, other areas of our relationship began to slip. For example, during the COVID-19 pandemic, while he recognized his previous behavior and wanted to change, he was on furlough in his apartment while my job still required me to physically go to work. I would work, come home, cook, and clean while he spent all day on his gaming. Emotionally, he provided support for a long period, but physically he neglected his household responsibilities. If I purchased 24 cans of drinks, they would be gone within a day or two, leaving none for me. It became increasingly challenging to juggle everything. I also decided to pursue a master's degree during that time in psychology as a career move, which turned out to be the best decision of my life as I am now working towards a PhD in psychology. Nevertheless, I recall that period as incredibly difficult for managing everything. In any case, he decided he wanted to pursue a master's degree too, but did not want to work while studying. This has always been a contentious issue for him, as he maintains that his coursework is too demanding to balance with a job, while mine is not, which allows me to work while completing my undergraduate and master's degrees. Therefore, we moved in with my parents while he pursued his master's. Following my master's, I applied and was accepted into a fully funded PhD program in psychology. During that time, we also began saving, amassing $15,000 for a house which we moved into in October. Unfortunately, the only house available was a rundown renovation project, and we have been working on it ever since. I love the house, but we still have a long way to go. For instance, we currently have no kitchen or downstairs radiators. Now, about 4 years into a solid, fulfilling relationship, we feel as though we have been thriving like never before. We have a car, a house, my PhD is nearing completion, and life is progressing smoothly. However, the negative pattern has returned. It has returned with full force, and I am unsure how to navigate it. In February, a few months after moving in together, my fiance and I had an argument. We rarely argue, especially since things have been good for years. I have developed a strong sense of security, my anxiety is at an all-time low, I am lecturing at the university, I have friends, my fiance and I are mutually respectful, we have a house, a car, and both passed our driving tests. We enjoy outings every weekend for movies and dining, and we save nearly $1,000 each month for our renovations. My life was at its best. I felt like I was flourishing for the first time, with numerous publications coming out and receiving thousands of pounds for freelance work at the university. I also hold a few part-time positions at the university, tutoring, capturing lectures, and teaching. I felt incredibly healthy and productive, and finances were abundant. For the first time in my life, I felt secure in my career, home, and relationship. Then, out of nowhere in February, my fiancé expressed. 1. He does not know where he fits in my career. After 10 years, he stated he no longer wants to be with someone pursuing a doctorate because my work is delaying his life. He admitted that my career makes him envious since he has not been able to obtain a PhD himself. 2. He dislikes our house and has never wanted it. He wants to sell it and rent instead, claiming I forced him into buying the house. 3. He does not appreciate my references to past incidents of emotional abuse during arguments, and suggested he may not want to continue our relationship. 4. He randomly expressed a desire to have a child within 1 or 2 years, and stated that if I do not want that, I should tell him now so he can leave to find someone else with whom to have a baby. He believes that young parents make the best parents and feels I have deprived him of that opportunity. Since that time, my life has been upended. I have attempted to find a compromise, telling him that I do not need to be a lecturer and that I am open to having a baby in 1 or 2 years, but only if we are married and financially stable first. This did not help our argument. He accused me of mocking him. I do not recall what I said, and he cannot remember either, but he insists that I mocked him, which has caused him to view me in a different light, leaving him unsure about our future together. This is when the past behaviors resurfaced and I am struggling to cope. I cannot remember everything. I believe my mind is doing its utmost to suppress it, but I will do my best to recount my experiences from February. I do not clearly recall the months from February to early April. They are a blur, and I completely disengaged during that time. He gradually withdrew love and affection throughout February, which felt horrendous, as though I was being punished. For example, on Valentine's Day, he merely gave me a card that read, "Sorry, things are not great right now." He told me he would not buy me flowers because he did not want me to think that he was trying. For my birthday, which is also in February, he provided a cake, a chocolate bar, and a Radox bath bottle. He bought me a card but failed to fill it out because he forgot. The card remains in the boot of the car. His withdrawal of love and continued silent treatment have been horrific. It genuinely feels like I am abstaining from a drug, and I would not wish this experience on anyone. He has stopped telling me he loves me, has ceased kissing me, and I have had to resume doing all the cooking and cleaning, which has become an overwhelming burden. The emotional impact this has had on me is severe. I was forced to file for an emergency extension for my PhD. As I am now 6 months away from completion and should be in focus mode, Yet I cannot work or accomplish anything due to his actions. I have lost over a stone in weight because I have been struggling to eat, and he has neither acknowledged this nor expressed any concern. I am unable to manage my emotions, crying constantly with my eyes perpetually swollen. Unfortunately, I cannot address this with him. He grows angry whenever I cry. I cannot discuss the turmoil he is causing me as he merely shouts or threatens to break up with me. I have not ventured beyond the shop since February. I have had to cancel my lectures. I have transformed into someone who feels so insecure that I can no longer leave my home. My world has been shattered. He keeps breaking up with me, which has occurred 5 times since February, but he also claims he will try. He does not know what is causing him to feel this way, but acknowledges that something is keeping him tethered to me. He is now establishing new boundaries that I struggle to meet, and when I inevitably fail, I am blamed. Here are some of the current issues he has imposed on me. He declared I was spending too much time on my computer for work, so now I log off every day at 5 p.m. when he returns home, ensuring dinner is ready. Yet now that I am doing this, he claims I am too needy. He told me I need to be less involved in my work and career, so I have engaged in more household activities to demonstrate my availability by cooking and cleaning. However, he now claims the house is too clean and that I do too much for him, leaving him feeling purposeless at home. I initially ceased cleaning to allow him to feel he had a role, but he neglected his responsibilities, prompting me to resume cleaning. He expressed that I am delaying his life. Thus, I told him I would be happy to have a child soon. As I am finishing my work in September, I suggested we start trying in December. He is now skeptical about whether I mean it and believes I am only saying this to keep him around. I am truly sincere about wanting what he wants, as we have been together for 10 years. He lamented his past Christmas celebrations and birthdays, expressing dissatisfaction with everything. Yet he criticized my efforts for his birthday when I arranged a getaway to a cottage, declaring it was excessive and that I tried too hard. He used to text me daily at work, and we would exchange messages multiple times each day to share jokes and maintain our connection. Since our argument in February, he has stopped texting me altogether, sending only one message per day. He stated that he no longer thinks about me at work, so there is no reason for him to message. On one occasion when he left me, he claimed to want to end our relationship because I acted too normally considering our situation. I expressed that I wanted to be pleasant and maintain peace, but he nonetheless ended things that night. I cried uncontrollably and begged him to stay, hyperventilating. All he said was, "Look at you, you're an embarrassment," and he laughed at me as I hyperventilated. Even now, if I bring it up, he dismisses it, saying, "I have never seen you like that, it was ridiculous." To him, I am simply embarrassing. At my friend's wedding last year, he sobbed as my friend walked down the aisle, expressing that we needed a wedding like that. This made me incredibly happy, as I have always yearned for a significant wedding and to walk down the aisle. However, since our argument, he has stated that if we do marry, it can only be a registry office or elopement wedding because larger weddings are too expensive and would further delay his life. What is truly heartbreaking is that he seems to be thriving at the moment. He appears genuinely happy. He has been getting his hair done and purchasing new clothes. While in the car, he plays breakup songs, singing along at the top of his lungs. He is planning work events and spending a significant amount of money on clothing for professional occasions, opting to socialize with coworkers rather than spend time with me at home. On the other hand, I am clearly struggling. I cannot leave the house, I am unable to function, and my mental state is deteriorating. I have lost a stone in weight, I cannot eat, and I cannot sleep. I am finding it difficult to shower or complete my work. I have been issued a sick note for 8 weeks and have fallen substantially off course with my PhD. I have had to cancel meetings, lectures, and conferences simply because I cannot be in public without breaking down in tears. During moments of overwhelming distress caused by his manipulative behavior, I find myself screaming alone in the house. He remains cold towards me, oscillating between moments of warmth and indifference. Occasionally, he will kiss me and I will believe things are improving, but then he will withdraw affection again. He claims he is doing his best and that is all he can provide. He has told me that if I do not appreciate it, I can leave. I am unable to inquire about our relationship status or ask whether he has made a decision about our future together. He grows annoyed and insists that my inquiries stall progress. At times, he will initiate intimacy, but on other occasions, he deliberately evades me. This inconsistency is exhausting because it creates a reset effect. We may enjoy a pleasant evening and he will seem happy and affectionate, but the next morning, like clockwork, he reverts to being cold and cruel. The emotional toll this hot and cold behavior has taken on me is incredibly draining, and I am at a loss for what to do. The most unsettling part is that prior to February, we had sex infrequently, perhaps once a month, which worked for both of us. I am very busy with my work, and he has always had a low sex drive, making that frequency suitable. However, since February, he has attempted to initiate intimacy at least once a week, and I find it incredibly difficult to reconcile how drastically someone's behavior can change. To summarize my current situation, it is challenging given that we have purchased a house, and most of the bills are in my name as he has been saving. I have offered him the $8,000 in savings in the car, stating I would take over the house on my own. I could manage the expenses on my own, although I cannot sell it while it is undergoing renovation, so it does not have a kitchen at the moment. I extended this option because he claims he does not love me and that I coerced him into buying the house, making him feel trapped. I do not wish for him to feel that way. The house remains unsellable in its current state, but he claims he does not want to leave, so he continues trying to maintain our relationship. I love him deeply but feel myself unraveling. I grapple with the pain of his fluctuating affection and the coldness he displays towards me. There is much more that I could recount, but I could write indefinitely. The house is unsellable, and although he does not want to move, even with my offer to take over all bills, he continues to exhibit a semi-nasty attitude towards me. Is this emotional abuse? Has anyone else experienced something similar? If so, how did you navigate it? Are there coping mechanisms available? I simply need to endure until I complete my PhD. Story 2. My boyfriend loves burlesque shows, saying he sees it as art, but it triggers my deep-seated insecurities. I feel threatened, wondering, am I still exciting? I don't want to control him, but I'm drowning in anxieties from past betrayals. How do I express my feelings without blaming him? Relationship context. A 21-year-old male and my boyfriend, 23-year-old male, have been together for 3 years now, and he is genuinely my missing puzzle piece. We met on Tinder during my first year of university. From our very first date, there was something about him that made me feel comfortably like myself, and it felt as though any awkward tension immediately dissipated. I had relationships that lasted over a year, yet none reached the level of comfort I felt during that initial date. We are both quite anxious individuals, but we are aware of most of each other's main triggers and the underlying reasons for many of the challenges we face. Since we started dating, both of our friend groups have somewhat disbanded, and until recently, neither of us really had many or any close friends. We experienced vastly different childhoods and upbringing, which led to our interests and hobbies being quite dissimilar. My high school was just the standard small-town type of institution. It was the one closest to most people in the area and did not specialize in anything. I spent a significant portion of my high school years attempting to convince everyone I was straight, only to be the last person to realize I was not, after I had finally managed to persuade others. I spent most of my time in the closet and never truly connected with many aspects that others my age might classify as gay culture, such as drag, certain music and artists, theater, Tumblr, etc. I did not resent my sexuality or feel ashamed. I simply regarded it as my sexual preference, nothing more. My identity largely remained consistent with who I was before, and I did not feel the need to change that to fit in with the community associated with my label. My parents had a blend of progressive and conservative views. They held very liberal beliefs regarding human rights and equality, but were somewhat conservative due to generational differences. For example, tattoos were taboo to them, and they would make comments to each other whenever people showed too much skin, believing that gay individuals faced the same adversities they encountered during their youth. My boyfriend had nearly the complete opposite experience. He grew up in a much larger city and attended an arts-focused high school. As one might imagine, the school had a considerable LGBTQ population, and my boyfriend was mostly out for the majority of his time there. He is much more connected to the elements of the gay community than I am and has always been quite liberal. He has several tattoos, is into fashion and drag, enjoys a lot of crafts, and so on. Situation. In the past 5 to 6 months, my boyfriend has started to become friends with a few of his coworkers, and they have begun to hang out outside of work on several occasions. I am not particularly thrilled with them as individuals based on some of the stories he shares about them at work, but I genuinely want him to build friendships. During the first few outings, some events and circumstances occurred that surprised me, prompting me to set certain boundaries and promises with him, such as taking an Uber if his friends drink, my discomfort with him using any illegal drugs, and some smaller safety measures. We went through a period of struggle as he felt guilty and hesitated to spend time with them out of concern for upsetting me again. Although I still encourage him to socialize and do not wish to be an overbearing boyfriend, I cannot help but feel anxious every time he goes out, which he notices even if I try to mask it. 2 of his friends are drag queens outside of work, performing mainly burlesque or sexual drag shows. Over the past few months, my boyfriend and his friends and coworkers have attended some of these drag events to support them and have fun, which has triggered an overwhelming wave of insecurity within me. To provide some context, I previously mentioned that while growing up, my parents held conservative views regarding nudity or bare skin. Although I am somewhat more progressive than they are and do not inherently have an issue with nudity, I do not shame anyone who enjoys being nude as long as it is appropriate and not around children. I have always felt uncomfortable being in physical settings where nudity is present. Even when my female friends in university would get drunk and want to show off their breasts, I felt incredibly uneasy and awkward. It was not that I didn't know how to behave. I simply did not want an image of someone I knew nude in my mind unless they were my partner. I have always perceived that it would be an image of someone I would not want to see when looking at them again. I usually try to quietly remove myself from such situations because I do not want to offend anyone due to my own discomfort, which is not their fault. A significant part of this discomfort is directed inward, leading me to become quite self-conscious about allowing other people to see intimate parts of my body. In kindergarten, I would not even take off my hoodie for gym class because I did not want my classmates to see my arms. I dreaded dressing rooms during sports and would only change in the bathroom. It took me 10 years of participating in the sport and reaching the age of 15 to finally feel comfortable removing my shirt in the dressing room before practice. My current boyfriend is the only person who has seen me fully undressed, mainly due to how comfortable I feel around him. I have nothing to hide. I just have always regarded my body as a very private part of me that I am not comfortable displaying. I do not possess abs or muscles, I am skinny and pale, I have body hair, body acne, and I stand at a medium to tall height 6 feet. While I do not feel extremely ashamed of my body, I am certainly aware of how it compares to others. To me, being undressed in front of someone is an incredibly intimate and significant moment. I have also grappled with trust issues in relationships. I have experienced multiple instances where I felt happy in a relationship, only to have someone else emerge and disrupt everything. One of my first significant crushes when I was young became very close to me, and during a sleepover I quietly approached her to chat, convinced she was about to confess her feelings for me. Instead, she pulled me aside and whispered, "I like Tristan, not me. Can you tell him?" Thus, my first investment of feelings and the anticipation of things improving were abruptly disrupted by someone else. In my first relationship afterwards, we were together for a few months, and while everything felt wonderful, another guy befriended my girlfriend and I gradually witnessed her losing interest in me for him. When I confronted her, she denied it, and 2 days after I broke up with her, she began dating him. I was fortunate to have somewhat better relationships afterward, but once I came out and entered the gay dating world, my luck reversed. My first encounter with another man lasted a few weeks until it began to get serious, and just as I started developing feelings, he started talking to someone else and eventually, I discovered he had lied to me to go to his place. It felt as though the same patterns were repeating. In my next relationship, I was emotionally strung along for his convenience, with him ghosting me for a day before returning and talking for 5 straight hours into the night. He then proceeded to ghost me for 3 days, finally coming back to say, "Sorry, I'm not ready for the dating world right now." A week later, he was active on the dating app again and began a relationship about a month later. All these experiences have contributed to my difficulty trusting in relationships and a profound insecurity that there will always be someone else who can step in and take my place, someone better. Fast forwarding to the present, my boyfriend is attending drag shows to support his friends. I do not have much experience with what drag shows entail, and from my understanding, a typical drag show is lighthearted, humorous, and tame. However, I have seen videos of the drag shows, and they are not at all what I anticipated. They resemble burlesque more closely. His friends who perform would strip down to thongs and pasties, revealing very little by the end of their performances. The themes of the nights often have raunchy undertones, and it is always for individuals ages 19 and older. I immediately inquired about this, and he said it was simply normal for drag shows. While it was certainly not the norm for drag shows, I was unaware and thought I had simply made a poor assumption or had been uninformed. It was not until one of his friends specifically referred to it as burlesque in front of me that I realized it was not typical drag. While this revelation unsettled me and I did not appreciate being misled, he appears genuinely happy attending and being there, and I do not wish to take that joy away from him or act toxic. My boyfriend frequently expresses how attractive he finds one of his friends while in drag, assuring me he only appreciates their attractiveness and is not genuinely attracted to them. Initially, I had no issue with this, but after witnessing their drag performances and outfits, it opened a deep well of insecurities for me. As I mentioned earlier, I have always struggled with nudity, so I asked him how he does not feel uncomfortable or disturbed at all by seeing his attractive friend in a thong right before him. We had an extensive conversation, during which he explained that he views the entire experience, the outfit, performance, and movements, as an art piece that does not affect him in any way. I understood that given his background and interests, this probably is not a significant concern for him. However, he struggled to comprehend why I found it difficult to see someone I knew in a sexual context, and this lack of understanding exacerbated my insecurities. It troubles me because he loves recounting stories about one of his friends who sends her boyfriend to the strip club to get excited before returning home. He makes fun of them somewhat and comments on how outrageous that is, emphasizing that he would never be comfortable in that situation. I have not confronted him about it, but I cannot help but feel our circumstances are becoming quite similar to his friend's relationship, with him going out to drink, which gets us both excited, and watching burlesque shows featuring nudity. My insecurities scream that I am no longer exciting to look at and that he would prefer to become eager while watching them. It exacerbates my feelings that my boyfriend does not have a single intimate photo of me saved on his phone, yet he has videos of his friends dancing in revealing outfits. We have both acknowledged that we occasionally masturbate when the other one is not around, and from some mistakes I have seen in his browsing history, I know he watches pornography. Personally, I do not mind whether he watches pornography or not. I have done so as well, and it feels distant enough that my insecurities are not affected. I maintain a hidden folder, which he is aware of, containing photos he has sent or that we have taken together, and I informed him he is welcome to do the same at any time as long as it remains hidden. Recently, we discussed the topic again, and he stated he thinks of me when he masturbates. However, when I asked him what photos he had saved, he replied that he did not have any. When I inquired why, he mentioned he simply prefers not to store anything inappropriate in his photos. I chose not to confront him about it because I did not want to appear petty, but I found it noteworthy that he had videos and images of his friends performing provocatively while not even having a shirtless photo of me or anything similar. I understand that he views it as performance or art, but it bothers me that he is comfortable having them in his camera roll while refraining from saving anything of me. My insecurities lead me to believe he will continue to see his friends in their revealing outfits and eventually grow bored of me or no longer find my body appealing. Deep-rooted fears persist that someone else will come along as a better option that my boyfriend will choose, despite how assured I feel of his genuine love for me outside of these contexts. I have been deceived and manipulated in the past to the point that my trust in relationships remains quite fragile. It troubles me that he seems so engaged in watching his friends perform suggestively in front of him, even though I know this reaction stems from my insecurities. I recognize he is not falling for them and that he genuinely loves me. However, I cannot help but stress and worry that one day his feelings will change. I hear my insecurities' voices urging me to act in a toxic manner, but I do not wish to place that burden on him because I want to ultimately have a healthy relationship. If you have read this far, you may notice that my insecurities significantly influence how I perceive situations, while the actual reality is often much more innocent than I expect. I did not want to shy away from expressing some of the thoughts in my mind that can manifest in toxic or unhealthy ways, as they reflect my feelings and what I am trying to transform. He has finally found friends who invite him out to enjoyable events, and I can see how happy he is when he is with them, so I do not want to take that experience away from him. I am currently attending regular therapy and plan to explore these insecurities further through counseling, but I would appreciate any additional advice. I am wondering if anyone else has experienced something somewhat similar with their partners innocently entering situations that deeply trigger their insecurities. I need help addressing my insecurities and communicating openly with him in a way that is productive, not accusatory, and allows him to understand what is happening in my mind, even if it is foreign to him. I do not want him to alter his lifestyle, but I wish for him to be aware that this is a significant struggle for me, and I do not perceive it in the same light as he does. I feel that my insecurities are signaling warnings that we are heading down a path reminiscent of my past, and I want to prevent it from creating distance between us, even if it is just my anxious imagination. TLDR, my boyfriend has been attending burlesque shows to support his friends, and even though I understand it is innocent, my insecurities are troubling me. I need advice on how to communicate this to him without making him feel he has done something wrong or needs to cease his outings and enjoyment. I welcome insights from those with similar insecurities that have influenced their relationships. Story 3. M24 grapples with a heart-wrenching situationship with F20, a girl he met gaming. After nearly kissing, she asserts, "I'm not capable of having a relationship." Days later, she begs him not to leave, saying, "I'd rather try than lose you." Can love conquer her fears? I recently experienced a situation that I cannot fully understand. If anyone reads this lengthy block of text, I would appreciate any feedback. I also apologize in advance for any grammatical errors. 5 months ago, my friend M24 and I met a girl F20 through a video game I know. We connected well and added each other after the game. I cannot recall how it happened, but we developed an inside joke about being married. We formed a Discord group with the three of us where we occasionally played games and chatted. I also added her on TikTok, which along with Reddit is the only other social media platform I have on my phone. Whenever she found a meme related to our marriage joke, she would either send it via TikTok or to the Discord group. After some time, around 3 weeks passed and she sent me one privately. I was curious about it but did not think much of it. We continued to communicate sporadically and started building a friendship. She studies in a different country from where she is originally from and mentioned that she would be returning home for approximately 2 weeks to visit her family. I am unsure if it was a joke, but she somewhat invited us to come as well. I assumed it was a joke, but I looked up the address and discovered that it would take 5 days by foot. I then stated that I would arrive in 5 days, walking all the way. After about 3 days, she asked if I was on my way. I believe this was the point where things became a bit more serious. I explained that it would take longer than anticipated because I encountered some difficulties and fabricated a wild story about what happened on the first day, something about carrying an illegal package and being chased by the police. The day one story was quite short, but both of us enjoyed it, so I continued to share a story each day, with each narrative growing longer. This resulted in us writing to each other daily. I have severe sleeping issues, relevant later, so every night I would lie in bed writing these stories. As time went on, by the end of January, she and my friend were giggling, saying they had a surprise for me. They provided a clue and I deduced that she wanted to visit us. She would be staying at my friend's house since he lives alone while I am still with my parents. He did have a sort of girlfriend at that time. For me, she was a good friend, and at that point I was not interested in any romantic relationships, believing that I would not be capable of maintaining one due to the issues I thought I had. Naturally, I worried that she might develop feelings for me, so I asked my friend whether she had mentioned anything to him. She had not. Nevertheless, I wanted to create some distance, which I did. She was supposed to stay for 3 days, and I planned to head back home each day. However, on the final day, we were drinking, so I could not return home and was compelled to stay the night. We also extended her visit by 2 more days. My friend had his sort of girlfriend over, so they stayed in his room while we had to share the couch. That night, nothing happened. We merely cuddled and fell asleep while watching television. For me, this was the first time in a long while that I had shared a bed with a girl. The problem was that I had come to a realization. I was convincing myself that I was incapable of feeling love or any sort of emotions. The next day, I panicked and returned home. I attempted to process my feelings and thoughts and called my friend. I told him that I might have developed feelings for her and didn't know how to handle it. He informed me that they had talked and he had asked her if she would date me. She replied affirmatively. After discovering this, I returned to her. Upon my arrival, he also mentioned that she had experienced some terrible things in her past, really bad. Consequently, I wanted to be extra cautious with her. Nonetheless, we spent the next 2 nights together. Again, nothing happened except for cuddling, but during all those nights I was wide awake. I probably only slept a total of 5 hours that entire week. After she departed, I spoke to my friend again and confided in him about a moment when I wanted to kiss her but refrained due to her past experience. Apparently, she had told him that she wanted to kiss me as well. Now all of this appears quite promising. On the same day she returned to her country, she messaged me saying she was home. I commented that it would be challenging to fall asleep without the cuddling, and she replied, "I know, I don't even want to think about it." In my view, I had every indication to express my true feelings. I told her that I wanted to kiss her but didn't want to pressure her, and her response completely surprised me. She said she was glad I didn't because it would mean something. I expected anything but that, which led to an extended discussion where she explained that she was incapable of having any romantic relationship due to her fears and how it made her feel when involved in one. After a lengthy back and forth, I told her that I would not be able to maintain a friendship in the same way anymore. Thus, we went silent for 2 days. I managed to catch some sleep and was able to think more clearly. I did not want to lose such a wonderful person, so after a few days, I suggested that we just be friends, thinking I could move on. Some time passed again and things returned to normal. We continued to flirt in a joking manner, which I now realize was a poor idea given my feelings. A little over a month later, another opportunity arose to meet. This time I would visit her alone. During our conversation, I specifically asked whether she was sure that she was not rejecting me as a person, but rather the idea of a relationship. I always held hope that she would come to the same realization that I had, that it is foolish to deprive oneself of something good because of fear. A week before I was set to go, she sent me another message stating that this upcoming meeting was entirely platonic and only a hangout between friends. I responded, "I know, we are just friends," and honestly, a small part of me believed that. However, when I arrived, the first few days were quite casual again. We went outside and she showed me her city and so on. We did share a bed and cuddled once more. Again, I knew it was not a good idea. One day we simply stayed at her home and engaged in activities like painting a picture together, swapping every 5 minutes. We also had deep conversations, during which she shared her past with me, explaining why she held a pessimistic view of relationships and her general dislike of men. I told her about how my friend had broken up with his sort of girlfriend because she wanted more than he could offer. Her response was, "I am glad we don't have a label." This utterly bewildered me. I thought our label was friends. I did not say anything and left it as it was. After our deep discussions, we became hungry, so I cooked. While I was cooking, there was a moment where we simply looked at each other for 10 seconds, and that was when I realized there was more to it. That night and the subsequent 2 nights, the cuddling intensified. However, once again, nothing more occurred. In hindsight, I regret not attempting to kiss her because I am entirely confident she would have allowed me to, and things would be drastically different now. On the final day, I had to leave early. We both got ready and then laid in bed with her in my arms until it was time for me to leave. What kind of friends do that, by the way? I felt something had changed. I was positive she had deeper feelings for me, but I was too afraid to mention it, fearing the conversation would end as it did last time. Upon my return home, we established a routine of playing games together for 1 to 2 hours before falling asleep on a call while watching a show. I ask again, what kind of friends do that every day? A few days after I returned home, my mom mentioned that her zodiac sign reading indicated she would have another grandchild. Jokingly, I told the girl about it. The conversation went as follows. Her, but we didn't have sex, not even a kiss. Me, and whose fault is that? Her, you are the man's. As previously mentioned, we used to joke like this, but given the changes I felt, I wanted to know if we were still joking or if there was something more substantial behind it, so I continued. Me, you are joking, right? Her, no, but I am grateful you didn't initiate anything. I am just too afraid of intimacy. P. Me, what do you means no? Her, oh, I meant yes. Me, okay, then it was a joke, right? Her, right, I mean still I would never initiate anything myself, but right. Me, oh. All of this demonstrated to me that a part of her does desire the same things, but another part is holding her back. As I stated, being afraid of the situation becoming like the last time, I did not pursue it further, and we kept everything as it was, except in my mind, I believed we were moving forward. Thus, from time to time, I attempted to indicate that I liked her more than just as a friend. After about 3 weeks, I noticed another change, but this time I felt she was creating distance. Our routine remained consistent, but our conversations were not as playful anymore. She stopped making sexual jokes and hardly responded to mine. I did not know what had changed, and at the time I thought perhaps I was being delusional or she might be going through a personal issue, so I refrained from mentioning it. Now, 12 days ago, she returned home to her family again. During this period, we could not play games or have our nightly calls. We still texted every day, but it simply wasn't the same. Although there were plans for her to visit my country again, this time staying at my home since my friend now has a roommate, there would be no space for her at his place. When she discussed this with her mom, her mother suggested that she take a motel. When I asked why her mother was suggesting that, she replied that her mother believed it was inappropriate for a girl to visit a boy's home while parents were present without being in a relationship. My response was, you are not a stranger to my parents, and even though it might not feel like it lately, we are married in case you forgot. When she read that, she asked me what I meant by it doesn't feel like it lately, and I explained how I had noticed changes. She told me she had stopped because she was frightened that I liked her more. Once again, I was utterly confused. After all the time we spent together in the previous month and everything we had experienced, I had thought we shared mutual feelings. She seemed surprised when I told her I had not been concealing my feelings. We engaged in another back-and-forth discussion, and this time she added that she just didn't see me as more than a friend. I do not believe this to be true whatsoever, but I had no choice but to respect her decision and say goodbye. I told her that I truly tried to just be friends, but it was not going to work after everything we had shared. So I left, but this time I genuinely meant it. Now we come to the conclusion. 5 hours later, I received a message from her urging me not to leave her, stating that I was correct about her being afraid and expressing a willingness to try rather than lose me entirely. She also acknowledged that what we had done was not typical for friends and that she felt more for me. This was 2 days ago. I am a person who tries to understand others from their perspective and am also very reflective. I wanted to respond with happiness, expressing my relief that she finally acknowledged her feelings. However, I realized that she may have only written all those things because she feared losing someone very important to her and panicked. Therefore, I replied that she should take a night to think about it and we could discuss it the following day. Yesterday, we spoke on the phone and I received the reply, I know this will end in a breakup. I am not capable of having a relationship right now. When she told me in our previous conversation that she only saw me as a friend, I could accept that. But her stating that the only reason we do not engage is her pessimistic view that things will end poorly is something I cannot comprehend. The fact that she would rather discard everything instead of giving it a chance is baffling to me. If it works, great. If not, then so be it, at least we have tried. I know she has feelings for me, and it's not merely my love-blinded perception. Others who have seen us together also note that we are a perfect match. I feel that I have lost someone who could have potentially been the love of my life to something I cannot even grasp. I am extremely lost right now and do not know what to do. I told her we could take things slowly and work through this together, but it felt like I was speaking to a wall. I had to write this all down. Thank you if you read through this. Addition to a comment. I have also contemplated this question. Does she like me as a person or just the attention and emotional support I provide? I assess the situation. Sometimes when she was playing with someone else and I asked if I could join, she would abandon them to play with me. I didn't always do the same and continued playing with my other friends. Whenever she went out to meet her friends, she would still include me, writing to me during those moments, regardless of whether it was one other person or a group. She inquired about my future, my family, and even had me do a personality check to see how well we complemented each other. She mentioned me to her family and friends. On days when we did not communicate much, she would still text me good night. She painted a picture for me and bought me gifts. Perhaps I am simply coping, but all these actions indicated to me that she isn't merely utilizing me. Everything between her and me felt organic, and I never once felt drained or exploited. I wasn't really doing anything excessive for her. Therefore, I genuinely believe she is just fearful of letting those emotions in and shuts down the moment they approach her. But yes, I did try. I gave her the opportunity and she did not accept it. There is nothing more I can do. I acknowledge that, and once it was over, I deleted her from all my platforms and will not return. Now regarding the stop hoping part, my primary challenge right now is accepting her reasoning and finding closure. That is why I feel so lost.